Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whenever you might be watching this as a part of makeup work for Mr. Sakowicz's Digital Media 2 Digital Illustration class. The class project was originally given on Monday, October 22nd, 2018, and today's lecture and video is something I like to call the Pure Poly Portrait Project. This is a really fun recreation of a photo into Adobe Illustrator and vector art. And what we are going to do today is we're going to go to my website and choose image either 1, 2, or 3 under today's work. If it's makeup work, you're looking for Monday, October 22nd for image 1, 2, or 3. I'm going to use one of the images that I already found from here. You'll see the one I'm using. You can pick 1, 2, or 3. All of them will work just as well. You're going to go into Adobe Illustrator once you download the image. You can also copy it. That might be the best way. But once inside Illustrator, go to File, New, and you can title your project Pure Poly Portrait if you like. You don't need to because we're going to do a screenshot ultimately. Make sure your width and height is set to 700 by 700. Your profile could start as anything, but it'll eventually go to custom anyway because you're making it 700 by 700 for the width and height. Pixels, of course. And then hit OK. You should end up with a nice square artboard to work with. And you can either copy and paste from the website your image. I'm going to place, but it doesn't really matter how you do it. Spoiler alert, these are the 3 images I gave you to choose from. I'm going to use Mr. Stefan Sagemeister. I think he was link number 3. Whichever one you pick. There's also Annie Leibowitz. She's a famous photographer we've talked about. Stefan Sagemeister is the famous graphic designer from New York. And you hopefully learned about a week or 2 ago that Thomas Knoll is, of course, the inventor and lead designer behind Photoshop. Very important man. So these are 3 very important people in digital media. I'm going to go with Mr. Stefan Sagemeister for today. He's got an interesting look, I feel. Once you copy and paste your image in, make sure you go to Object, Lock, and Lock Selection. You can also do this, and I recommend also doing it with layers, because we're going to work with layers today so you can turn on and off this layer. So if I didn't lock and unlock the object, I'm going to unlock it. I'm going to open up my Layers palette over here, and I'm going to double click to rename this photo, and I can actually lock it down by turning on that little lock symbol there. Right now it was blank, I just locked it. Go to Create New Layer, because we're going to work with vectors still, and you could double click to call this Vector Art. That would be good. Call that Vector Art. And you can see it gives you a new layer color in red. The Stefan Sagemeister layer is in blue. He's locked in, so you can't see anything there. But if I unlock it and highlight him, he is now, everything we're working with him is in blue. Everything our vector art will be outlined in red. We're going to lock Mr. Stefan Sagemeister in, and we're going to make sure we click on the vector art layer. We don't need layers anymore for now, but we might in a little bit. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. And another thing to make sure is turned on in this project under View is Smart Guides. Make sure that's turned off. If you have it on by any chance, you see that arrow there, like Smart Guides, turn it off. We probably used this in a previous lesson, and it's not helpful to us today, so turn that off. Now we're ready to go. The project is very simple. Follow my steps, and everything will be very easy for you. Today, what we're going to learn and use a lot is the pen tool to make paths, specifically triangle shapes. So I recommend under the fill and stroke over here, turn off stroke, make it none, and then click back on fill and make that about like a nice hot green, a bright green. Not like really a Varela green, although that'd be nice too, but I'm going to make it a little more of like a bright green, something in there. All right, something like that. Why? Because it'll be easier for me to see when I draw the shape. You'll see what I mean in a moment. I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to work first around his hair. He's got this kind of scraggly hair in this photo. It looks kind of neat, kind of fun. What we're going to do is we're going to use the pen tool, P for pen, or just click on the pen tool icon over here. Excuse me. And we're going to make very simple triangle shapes with the pen tool by just going click, click, click. 3 clicks. We're not going to complete the triangle. We're just going to go click, click, click. We don't need to come back here for number 4, just 3, and then we already have our shape. We don't need to close it up. We're going to keep it nice and simple. Hit P again on the keyboard. Get used to that on this project because you're going to be clicking that a lot. And I'm going to come over here and I'm going to go click, click, click. Now a couple of things happened. I deliberately made a second triangle, but notice how I made this huge gap in there. You see that space? I didn't make them very close to each other. That's going to be important in a few more minutes when we go inside here and we're going to want to sample the color from the background. I know right now that sounds confusing, but it'll be very, very obvious in a few minutes when we get over there. So we want that gap. It's also going to make our project look kind of cool too. Press P again to make sure we're on a new path and go click, click, click. Now in my mind, I'm imagining what my triangle shape might actually look like before I draw it. This is going to take some understanding and take some time to understand and visualize, but you'll get it pretty quickly. I'm going to go click, 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 and there's another one. Remember, only 3 clicks with the mouse to make that triangle shape, and then I'm tapping P again on the keyboard so I start a new path. Let me show you what happens if I do not tap P and I just keep going, because it's essential. Click, click, click. Now let's say I want to come over here and start a new shape. If I don't hit P on the keyboard, uh-oh, my path is still continued, so that doesn't work. Control Z to undo, and tap P on the keyboard so I can start a new path. Click, 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 and we're good to go. I'm going to continue to go around. I'm going to go a little faster and talk a little bit less so I can continue this for you. Click, click, click. And what I'm trying to get you to see is that I'm creating these shapes. They can be any size. They can be large or small. Like that one's a bit smaller. And I'm making sure I continue that gap. Whoops, I don't like that one. I'm going to undo that one completely. I want to make sure I have a nice gap in there because I need to be able to sample that color later on. You're going to see what I mean in a few minutes. I know right now it looks kind of weird. You're thinking, Mister, what are you doing? This is going to be a little bit more obvious in a few minutes. Remember, I'm being mindful to make sure I have that gap in between all my shapes. Very important with this project. There's no right or wrong way to do this. That's the best part about this project, I feel. Your imagination is going to take over, I hope. And I know it will do great. Whoops. I accidentally clicked P inside my route. Hit P again. I'm going to do one more. I'm almost done. Just like that. Okay. Also, if it's not close enough, you can just move it actually with the mouse. Now that looks really weird. I know. He looks like the Grinch. He's got green hair. Oh my gosh, Mr. Stefan Sagmeister. I hope you're not watching at home. What we're going to do now is give him more of his real color here. And that's why I wanted you to do that gap. So what I want you to do now is come over back to the original one. We're going to start back where we started. Hit make sure you're selecting with the black selection tool, not direct selection. We'll use that later. And use the eyedropper tool, I for eyedropper, and select anywhere inside behind him. And look what we did. We actually changed that shape to like a very dark brown because he is dark brown here. Use V on the keyboard to go back to your selection tool away from eyedropper. And you go to the second one and do it again. Now, the colors aren't perfect. They're not exact. That's exactly what we want. We want there to be some variation. That will make this project look more fun. All right. Go to the next one, I on the keyboard for eyedropper, or you can click over here to the eyedropper tool and select the next color. Let's do it again. Click, again, V to get to the selection tool. Then I select the shape, the next one, I for eyedropper, and do it again. I'm already getting a nice mix of brown colors, dark, light, dark, light. That's really cool. V for selection, I for eyedropper, go to the next one. This is perfect so far. Well, there is no perfect or right or wrong, but it's looking nice what we want. You'll see the end result in a few moments and you'll be, I think, pleasantly pleased. Now it's a little bit thinner here. I didn't make as thick as a gap, so it's harder for me to get in there. So I'm just going to zoom in and you can see how I can see all those pixels, all those dots. That's going to help me in choosing the color. So if I want a dark color, I can just pick a dark color. Interesting, right? V to select, I for eyedropper, and then go to a lighter one. V to select, I for eyedropper, pick another one. Keep going, go all the way around. I'm going fast. You can pause and rewind the video as you might need. Next shape, click, V for select, I for eyedropper. A few more shapes. V for select, I for eyedropper, click. V for select, you get the point. Keep going, almost done. We're going to go all the way around. And I'm being careful not to pick the lightest colors. That looks a little weird, but we could pick a light color if you want. Sure. 3 more shapes. Let's do it real fast. 1, 2, and 3. Okay. So there we go. It looks very strange. I know. But watch what happens if we go back to layers and turn off that photo layer. If you're using your imagination, you can kind of see the shape of his hair or his head. I know it looks silly, but what we're going to continue to do, and I'm going to let you do the rest now, is go around, you guessed it, to all parts of his face and his head. You can even do the bottom here by his shirt. You can make some simple shapes in there. Really, the smaller the triangles, the better, because you'll have more detail. But if you want to make them large like some of these, you can do that also. These larger ones are okay. But these smaller ones will give you more detail and more ability to work. So when you get down here to this part, I'll do a couple down here. I'll click, click, click. All right. And then I select that blue color. It's going to make it a little bit more interesting with the shapes. Just be mindful of a couple things. Let me delete that shape. Go back to your fill color, because right now it's sampled either from that dark brown from his head, or it might be sampled over here, this blue. Be mindful of that fill color, because it's going to be very confusing if it's not that bright green. So go back to your palette, your colors palette, and I'm going to pick that bright green. Look how much easier it is for me to work, click, 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 when it's that bright green color. All right, that's the only reason I'm using that bright green. It's just easier for me to visualize. If you're comfortable working in that end result color, does that make sense? If you're comfortable working in that bluish color, go for it. If you're advanced and you can do that, wonderful. But for me, for my vision, it's just easier for me to actually go in and work with the color I'm not going to use and then go back to it. See how I'm doing this? Nice and carefully, but deliberately giving that gap. That's really going to create that effect we're looking for. I feel like I might just finish this off. It's going so fast. You can see how quickly you can do it. Remember, there's no right or wrong way, but the more space you put inside there will make it interesting. Look how fast I created that left side of his shirt. And then what I would do is now I would use the eyedropper, select first, V for selection tool, and hit those colors inside there. Okay. Let's finish this up for you. I'm not going to do his face, but the same principle, the same thing goes for his face when you get to that. Almost done. I just felt the need to do this part for you also because it was really easy while I was talking. Whoops. I accidentally created another point there. All right, almost done. Remember, we want that variation color. We don't want all the colors the same. Let's go to our layers. Right now it's hard to see anything, but if we turn our layers off for photo, there you go. So you can already see what we're starting to do here. You're going to get all those light colors for his skin tones, and it's going to look really great. So you can see what we're working with there. We can turn that on or off and see the background. And yes, we're going to do his eyes. You're going to do his lips with that more pinkish color. His skin tones, notice how much lighter it is here than here. Pick all those colors nicely. You can even do those little sideburns with his hair coming down for like his side of his head. Be mindful of his eye colors and make little or not so little triangles all around. And I promise you, you will have a really, really cool pure poly portrait. What does the poly part in portrait mean? Polygons. These are all polygons. They are triangles, but they are shapes made up of polygonal shapes. That is what you're trying to do today. So I'm not going to finish it for you. You're going to finish it. Take a screenshot at the end and submit it. Make sure it's as large as possible. Leave this layers palette showing so you can show me that you used one layer for the vector art and one layer for photo. All right? You're doing a great job in this class. Everyone is doing fantastic. Thank you so much for watching this video. Again, this was the Pure Poly Portrait. And as always, good luck and have fun.